So I begin first of all with the first part about wills, and then a little bit about inheritance with a few questions, and then inshallah I'll open the door or the floor to your questions. Wills. Wills in Islam are obligatory upon every Muslim to have a will, because wills ensure that the families you leave behind are more clear on the distribution of the wealth and whatever bequests you put forth, so that they do not dispute and fight and disunite. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the hadith is in Bukhari, book 51, hadith 1, and also Muwatta al-Imam Malik. He said, it is the duty of a Muslim man or woman who has something to be given as a bequest, not to spend 2 nights, and another hadith, 3 nights, without writing a will about it. Some scholars said it is a highly recommended sunnah, others they said it's obligatory. Among them was Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, who says, I didn't let 2 or 3 nights pass without reviewing my will. Now of course this is for people who have property, wealth, or anything that they want to bequest. Bequest meaning to advise after their death to do, especially when it comes to property. ما حق امرئ مسلم له شيء يوصى فيه يبيت ليلتين إلا ووصيته عنده مكتوبة. So this is the translation in Arabic. And in the West where people live, Muslims live, we don't have a legal system that supports the Islamic inheritance, of course. They have their own common law, and if people don't write wills and they don't legalize it in some way, obviously you have to seek legal advice, then the heirs can go after wealth in accordance with the laws of that land. Australia, for example, since we are in Australia and similar countries like it, they allow you, the heirs and the family, to have an agreed upon will, even if you go by your own religious text, so long as everybody's in agreement with it and there's a fair share. But if anybody disputes it, they have a right to raise this complaint to the courts. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, but you should ask, lawyers about this, because this is very important to try and meet our Islamic requirements. But you, my dear brothers and sisters, if you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you do, you have to know what inheritance means and leave a will to say to your family, especially those who don't know any better, to follow the Quranic guideline of inheritance and distribute it, and give, for example, delegate a guarantor or a guardian. It could be the mosque, it could be an Islamic society, it could be someone, a person you know who has knowledge and you trust. Delegate them as a trustee to carry out the will, inshallah, and the inheritance. So we have to try and legalize it, make it legal, make it binding, and the best way to do that is to get legal advice, inshallah. I've got a few friends who shared with me some legal documents which we wrote our inheritance and then got it legalized. And inshallah ta'ala, I've had a lot of people who told me about some elderly mothers, elderly fathers whose children are no longer around or they don't visit them, and they've got wealth and property to distribute and they didn't want it to be misused. So they came to me and I used to advise them, or they go to another, other people go to imams or Islamic bodies to tell them how to distribute it and how to write it. So we've helped a lot of people this way, and alhamdulillah, it solved a lot of problems. Now, how do these wills, what do you do with them? You write especially about property that you have, and that is why when we come to married couples, it is important that if you trust your spouse, to let them know what properties you have. Some people are against that. If you don't trust the person, at least have a guarantor, do something where things are known, so that if we die anytime, nothing is lost. And I am a person who advises people to share information about their property and wealth with their spouse. And if you fear trust or something like that, seek legal advice, because your spouse has a right to inheritance. You might die before her as a husband, The wife, you may die before your husband. He has a right to some inheritance. Your children have a right. If you have parents, they have a share. So this complex inheritance system, there is a share for heirs. And so it needs to be clear. So make sure that you have a backup. If you're going to, you don't trust certain people, have a backup, have somebody who knows, and don't just leave it to yourself where people don't know what's going on. Otherwise, we'll be questioned about it on the Day of Judgment. There was one companion by the name of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, one of the 10 who were promised paradise, and he is the maternal uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu was dying. And when the Prophet, peace be upon him, visited him, he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, the hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim, he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, I have only one daughter left, and I have a lot of land and property. How about I give majority of it, 2/3 of it, in charity? And the Prophet ﷺ, he told him not to do that. He said to him, no. He said, how about half of it in charity? I've only got one daughter. He said, no. Your family then will come and say and start begging. Why? Or he said that was another hadith. In this particular time, he said, no, it is better to leave your heirs and your family financially independent than to make them become dependent on the community. So he said, how about 1/3, Ya Rasulullah? I'm going to give 1/3 of it in charity. He said, 1/3 is the maximum and it is still too much. He preferred that even it's less than that. So the emphasis on your heirs having property is more important than to give it all away in charity. Especially if you know that you're nearing death. The hadith is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim.